The sun was just setting, casting an orange glow over the barren landscape. Deep in the heart of an uncharted alien planet, a lone human explorer named Jack moved quietly across the dusty terrain. His mission was clear: find ancient artifacts, gather data, and return to Earth. But today, things would be different. Jack had been exploring this forgotten planet for days. It was a place lost to history, abandoned by all but the wind and the sand. No one had visited it in centuries. There were no signs of life, just empty structures crumbling under the weight of time. Yet something about this place felt alive. The air seemed thick with secrets. As he wandered through the ruins, Jack noticed an odd structure in the distance. It looked like a monument, tall and regal, yet strangely untouched by the decay around it. His curiosity piqued. He approached the structure, his boots crunching on the gravel beneath him. At the base of the monument, he found an artifact, an intricately carved stone, glowing faintly in the dimming light. Without thinking, Jack brushed off the dirt that had accumulated over centuries, revealing a series of symbols. They were unlike any language he had seen before, yet there was something oddly familiar about them. As he studied the symbols, a sudden realization hit him. There was one name, etched clearly across the center of the stone: Celine. For a moment, Jack stood frozen. He had no idea why, but the name felt important, almost as if it was calling to him. He whispered it aloud, almost reverently, unsure of what he expected to happen. The moment the name left his lips, the world seemed to shift. The air grew heavier. The ground beneath him trembled ever so slightly. A strange hum filled the air, rising in pitch until it vibrated in his chest. Jack's heart raced, and he instinctively took a step back, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Then, as if the very planet itself had heard the name, the monument began to glow with an ethereal light. The hum grew louder, and before Jack knew what was happening, the ground beneath him cracked open, revealing a hidden chamber deep beneath the surface. Jack's instincts screamed at him to run, to escape whatever ancient force was being awakened. But he couldn't. His feet were rooted to the spot, as if some unseen force held him in place. He watched in awe and fear as the chamber opened wider, the light pouring out like liquid fire. In the center of the chamber stood a figure, a woman, tall and regal, her features glowing with an otherworldly radiance. Her eyes were wide, filled with shock and something else, something Jack couldn't understand. She stared at him, her mouth opening and closing as if trying to speak, but no words came out. The moment Jack's eyes met hers, he knew that something had changed. Something had been awoken. And for the first time in his life, he felt a deep sense of fear, not just for himself, but for the galaxy itself. For the woman before him, the one who stood frozen in time, was no ordinary being. She was the last of a forgotten empire. She was the alien queen, and Jack had just spoken her name. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, his pulse racing as he stared at the figure before him. The woman, no, the alien queen, stood motionless, her glowing form flickering slightly. The light surrounding her was almost blinding, but Jack couldn't look away. He didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing for sure. Whatever this was, it was far beyond anything he had ever imagined. For a long moment, nothing moved. The air was thick with tension, and the hum of energy still buzzed in the background, vibrating the ground beneath Jack's feet. It felt as if time itself had paused. Even the wind, which had been howling just moments ago, seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the queen's eyes blinked. The glow in her eyes flickered, and she seemed to regain control over her form. Her once frozen expression shifted slightly, confusion replacing the shock that had first filled her face. It was clear that she had not expected this moment to happen, certainly not so suddenly. Jack stood still, barely daring to move, his voice caught in his throat. "Why, you're Celine," he stammered, unsure if he was even speaking to her or to the projection of her. The queen's lips trembled as if she were struggling to speak. "You should not have spoken my name," she finally said, her voice echoing in Jack's mind. It wasn't the sound of her voice that scared him. It was the weight behind it. It was as if her words carried an ancient power, one that had been dormant for centuries. Jack didn't know how to respond. "I didn't mean to," he started, but she interrupted him. "You do not understand," she said sharply, though there was a note of regret in her voice. "My name was erased. It was never meant to be spoken again." Her words hit Jack like a hammer. He had stumbled across an ancient relic, a name carved into stone, and now he was standing face to face with the very queen whose name had been erased from history. The implications were massive, and Jack could barely wrap his mind around it. Erased. But why? The queen's eyes darkened, and for a split second, Jack thought he saw pain flicker across her features. "It is not just my name that was erased," she said softly. "It was everything I once stood for. My people, my empire, my power, all gone. The galaxy feared me, and so they buried me. And now you have awakened me by speaking that name." Jack took a hesitant step forward, unable to tear his eyes away from her. "What do you mean? What happened to you?" The queen's form shimmered slightly, as though the weight of her memories were too much to bear. "I ruled an empire," she whispered, almost as if to herself. "A mighty empire that spanned across countless worlds. But my enemies, they feared what I could become. So they erased my existence from every record, every history. They made sure that no one would remember me." The pain in her voice was undeniable, and Jack felt a surge of empathy for her. This was not just a queen or a ruler. This was someone who had been cast aside, someone who had been robbed of everything she had once known. The chamber seemed to grow colder, the air heavy with ancient sorrow. But before Jack could say anything more, the queen's gaze locked onto him, her eyes sharp and intense. "You have no idea what you've unleashed," she said, her voice now colder than ever. "And neither do I. The truth of what I am, what I was, could shatter the galaxy." Jack's chest tightened. He knew he was in over his head, but he couldn't help but feel a strange pull to this alien queen, this lost figure from a forgotten past. He took another step forward, trying to steady his breath. "I didn't mean to awaken you. But now that I have, what happens next?" Jack asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. The queen's eyes narrowed. "Now, we survive, and we find out who tried to bury me." The room seemed to grow colder as the queen's words hung in the air. Jack could feel the weight of her secrets pressing down on him. He was no longer just an explorer on a forgotten planet. He was entangled in something much bigger, something that had been hidden away for centuries. He tried to steady his breath, his mind racing to process what he had just heard. This was no ordinary encounter. "I don't understand," Jack said, his voice quiet. "Why erase you from history? Why go to all this trouble?" The queen, Celine, stared at him for a long moment, her glowing eyes flickering as though debating whether she should trust him with more of her story. Finally, she spoke again, her voice softer but filled with deep sorrow. "It wasn't always like this. My empire was vast, powerful. I ruled over countless worlds, and my people were loyal. But there were others who feared me. I was too powerful for them to control," she said, her words laced with an almost painful nostalgia. "I had the power to unite the galaxy, to shape it in ways no one could imagine. But I was betrayed." Jack stepped closer, trying to understand. "Betrayed? By who?" Celine's eyes narrowed, a flicker of anger flashing in her expression. "By the very ones I trusted. The Galactic Council, the leaders of the Empire. They saw my power as a threat. They feared that I would become too great. And so, they conspired against me." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. A powerful queen betrayed by those she considered allies. It was a story of politics, power, and treachery that seemed all too familiar, But this was no mere history lesson. This was real, and Jack was standing in the heart of it. They couldn't kill me, Celine continued, her voice filled with a deep bitterness. So they erased me. They removed my name, my legacy, from every record. They destroyed everything that connected me to this galaxy. And they hid the truth, hoping that no one would ever find it again. Jack's mind whirled as he took in the full weight of her words. But why keep you alive? Why not just end it all? Celine's expression softened, but there was no warmth in it. Because I was a symbol, one they couldn't just get rid of. They didn't want to risk me coming back, so they trapped me. Locked me away in a place where no one could reach me. Until now, it seems. Jack's thoughts raced as he pieced it together. The name, the artifact, the strange occurrence when he spoke it. It was all part of a plan that had failed. The Queen, once powerful, had been hidden away, her existence buried beneath layers of time. And now, because of his mistake, his curiosity, she was free. He hesitated before asking the question that had been lingering in his mind. What happens now? Are you going to reclaim your throne? Celine's eyes flickered again, but this time there was something new in her gaze. Determination. I don't know, but I will not allow them to erase me again. I will find out who is behind this, who thought they could control me, and I will make them pay. Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and fear as he looked at the Queen. Her power, her rage, it was clear she had been wronged. But he wasn't sure how far she would go to right those wrongs. And in a galaxy as vast and unpredictable as this one, anything could happen. But one thing was certain. Jack had just become a part of something far greater than he had ever imagined. And there was no turning back. The glow from Celine's form flickered, casting long shadows across the chamber. Jack could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, like he was standing on the edge of something much bigger than he had ever imagined. The ancient Queen, who had once ruled an empire, was now awake, and with her, the danger she had been hidden from for so long. Jack stepped back slightly, his mind racing. You can't mean you're going to fight them, right? The ones who did this to you? He asked, trying to understand the depth of her intentions. Celine's gaze hardened, her eyes dark with a storm of emotions. Fighting is only part of it, she said, her voice low and full of purpose. The ones who betrayed me, they are still in power. They control the galaxy's leaders, the trade routes, the military forces. They have manipulated everything. If I were to rise up against them now, it would not be a simple battle. It would be war. Jack's chest tightened. He had heard of galactic wars, stories told by explorers, but he never thought he'd be standing in the middle of one. So what are you saying? He asked cautiously. Are we going to start a war? Celine's form shimmered, and for a moment, Jack could see the burden in her eyes. I didn't ask for war. I only wanted peace. I wanted to bring order, to unite the galaxy under one rule. But they feared me. They wanted to control the galaxy, and so they tried to bury me. Now they think I am nothing. They believe I'm a relic of the past, but they're wrong. Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. The fate of the galaxy, an entire empire, had been hidden away, locked beneath layers of time. The Queen wasn't just a ruler. She was a symbol, a force that could change everything. The thought of her reclaiming her power seemed both thrilling and terrifying. But there's something you need to understand, Celine said, her voice gaining strength. The moment I was awakened, everything changed. They will know I'm alive. They will send their soldiers, their spies. They won't let me reclaim what is mine without a fight. Jack swallowed hard, his mind racing with the reality of it all. He had stepped into something far bigger than his mission of exploring a forgotten planet. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was involved, whether he liked it or not. You can't do this alone, Jack said, stepping closer. I can help. I don't know much about politics or war, but I know how to fight. I can help you get back what you lost. Celine's eyes softened for a moment, but only for a brief second. You don't understand, human. There are forces at play here that you cannot begin to comprehend. It's not just about fighting battles. It's about surviving the game that has been played for centuries. The ones who betrayed me are powerful, and their reach is long. Jack clenched his fists, a feeling of helplessness sweeping over him. But then, something inside him clicked. This wasn't just a fight for power. This was about truth. The truth of who Celine was, and the lies that had been woven around her name for so long. He looked at her with determination. Then let's go after the truth. Together. We'll find who's behind all of this. We'll make sure they can't hide anymore. Celine studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, she nodded. You have no idea what you're getting into, human. But I will allow you to stay by my side. For now. Jack's heart raced. This wasn't just about a fight for a throne. It was about uncovering secrets that had been buried for centuries. And the deeper they went, the more dangerous the path would become. But there was no turning back now. The game had begun, and Jack had just made the first move. The chamber felt colder now, the air thick with the weight of the conversation. Jack could feel the change in the atmosphere. The deeper they went into the Queen's past, the more dangerous the truth seemed to become. He was no longer just an explorer on a forgotten world. He was now part of something much larger, something that could affect the entire galaxy. Celine's form flickered again, her glowing eyes distant as she seemed to lose herself in thought. Jack stood quietly, watching her, trying to process everything she had told him. He had thought he was simply here to discover lost relics, to add another discovery to his list. But now, everything had changed. The Queen was alive, and with her came the secrets of a forgotten empire. We need to learn more, Jack said finally, breaking the silence. If we're going to fight those who erased you, we need to understand why they did it. We need to find out who exactly is behind this, who feared you so much that they would go to such lengths to bury you. Celine's eyes snapped back to him, a new sharpness in her gaze. You're right, she said slowly. But be careful what you ask for, human. There are things in this galaxy that no one should uncover. Some knowledge is best left forgotten. Jack didn't flinch. I'm not afraid of the truth. I can handle it. I just need to know what happened. The Queen studied him for a long moment, and for the first time, Jack saw something like approval in her eyes. Very well. But you must understand, what you're asking is dangerous. If you dig into the past, there is no going back. The truth is a weapon, and it can destroy just as easily as it can heal. Jack nodded. He had already committed to this path, and now there was no turning back. Then let's start digging. They spent hours combing through the ruins of the ancient city. Jack found more artifacts hidden beneath the rubble, old data pads, chipped stones, and half-ruined scrolls that were covered in dust and time. He worked alongside Celine, carefully cataloging everything they found, searching for anything that could shed light on the mystery of her past. The more they uncovered, the more the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. One of the data pads held an important clue, a recording, long buried under layers of dust. It was a message from someone named Jarek, a high-ranking official in the Galactic Council. The message was short, but it was clear. The Queen must be removed. Her power is too great. She cannot be allowed to control the galaxy. Jack's heart raced as he listened to the message again. The words were chilling, and they confirmed everything Celine had feared. The Council didn't just want to remove her. They wanted to erase her entirely. This is it, Jack said, his voice filled with awe. This is the proof. They were afraid of you because of your power. They saw you as a threat. Celine's expression remained calm, but Jack could see the flicker of emotion behind her eyes. Yes, she whispered. They feared what I could do. But what they didn't realize is that it wasn't just my power they were afraid of. It was the truth of my empire. It was the unity I could bring. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The galaxy had been united under her rule, an empire that had been shattered by betrayal and hidden from history. And now she was back. The truth had been buried, but now it was rising to the surface. The message from Jarek was only the beginning. There was more to uncover, more secrets hidden in the ruins of the past. As Jack looked at Celine, he knew they had only scratched the surface. The deeper they went, the more dangerous this mission would become. But he had already made his choice. There was no turning back now. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the planet in darkness. The only light came from Celine's glowing form and the dim flicker of ancient consoles scattered throughout the chamber. Jack felt a strange pull as he studied the artifacts they had uncovered. The weight of the past was heavier than he had ever imagined. Every relic, every piece of data, told a story of a galaxy that once trembled beneath the power of the woman standing before him. Celine, who had been quiet for a long time, seemed lost in thought. Her glowing eyes flickered with a mix of sadness and determination. She had told Jack about her empire, about how it had once been the most powerful in the galaxy. But now, those memories seemed like distant shadows, difficult to grasp. "This place, it feels like it's alive," Jack said, looking around the chamber. "These ruins, these artifacts, they hold something more than just history. They hold a legacy." Celine didn't answer right away. She walked slowly to a large stone tablet that stood against the wall. Her fingers brushed over the surface, and the stone began to glow faintly. A hologram flickered to life, showing an image of a grand palace, sleek and beautiful, with towering spires reaching toward the stars. It was a place of power, a symbol of everything she had once built. But now, it was gone. The hologram distorted, and the image shattered, replaced by something far darker. Jack stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat as he saw the destruction unfold before him. The once proud palace was in ruins, its spires shattered and burning. Ships from every corner of the galaxy surrounded it, firing upon the city. Soldiers, led by figures Jack didn't recognize, marched through the streets, tearing down statues and burning the buildings to the ground. Celine's expression darkened as she watched the destruction. "This is how they ended it. This is how they erased me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "My enemies came from within my own empire. They feared me, and they destroyed everything I had built." Jack didn't know what to say. The destruction was complete. There was no mercy in the images that flashed before him. Only anger, fear, and betrayal. He looked at Celine, and for the first time, he truly understood the depth of what she had lost. "They didn't just take your empire," Jack said, his voice soft but filled with sympathy. "They took everything. Your people, your history." Celine's eyes darkened, but she didn't look away from the hologram. "Yes, they destroyed it all, but I will not let them erase me any longer. The truth must be known. The galaxy needs to understand what they did. It needs to know what was taken from me." Jack felt a surge of resolve. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the galaxy. The truth of her empire, the power she had once held, was something the universe had forgotten. And now, it was up to them to bring that truth to light. "We'll make sure they pay for this," Jack said, his voice filled with determination. "But we need to move fast. If they were able to erase you once, they can do it again." Celine nodded, a flicker of something like pride in her eyes. "You're right. The galaxy may have forgotten me, but they will remember now. Together, we will find out who is behind this, and why. We will bring them down." Jack stood by her side, feeling the weight of the journey ahead. There was no turning back now. The secrets of the past were coming to the surface, and with them, the power to change the future. Together, they would uncover the truth, and nothing would stop them from seeing it through. The night stretched on, and the ruins of the ancient city became darker with each passing moment. Jack could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on him. Every step they took, every artifact they uncovered, brought them closer to the truth, but also closer to danger. Celine, once the ruler of a vast empire, had been hidden away for centuries, erased from history. And now, as her power began to return, the shadows of her past were stirring. There were forces, powerful, dangerous forces, who would stop at nothing to keep her buried. The next morning, Jack and Celine ventured deeper into the city's ruins, searching for more clues. As they moved through the crumbling hallways of what had once been a grand palace, the silence between them grew heavier. Celine's mind was occupied with memories, memories of a time before everything fell apart. "There's more to this," Celine said suddenly, breaking the silence. "I can feel it. The galaxy may have forgotten me, but the ones who betrayed me haven't. They know I'm awake now. They will be coming for us soon." Jack's heart raced at the thought. He knew the Galactic Council, the ones who had erased her name, wouldn't let her return without a fight. They would do everything they could to stop her from reclaiming the power she had once held. "You think they're already sending their agents?" Jack asked, his voice tight with concern. Celine nodded. "They've always been watching. Even in the shadows, they've kept track of my people, my empire. If they know I'm alive, they will waste no time. We have to move quickly." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The power of the Galactic Council was vast, their reach long. If they were coming for them, there would be no place to hide. But he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't about to leave Celine to face this alone. "Then we have to act fast," Jack said, determination building in his voice. "We need to get the information we found out of here. We can't let them find us." Celine's eyes flashed with a cold, calculating look. "We will take what we've uncovered, but we will also make them pay for what they've done. This isn't just about my throne. It's about the truth of my empire. And the galaxy must know." Just then, the ground shook. Jack's heart skipped a beat as he heard the low hum of engines in the distance, a sound he recognized all too well. The distant rumble grew louder, and a shadow fell over the ruins. A ship, sleek and menacing, appeared in the sky above them, its dark silhouette cutting through the fading light. "Get to cover," Celine ordered, her voice steady, but Jack could hear the urgency beneath it. They ducked behind a nearby stone column, watching as the ship descended, landing with a thunderous boom in the open space near the ruins. The ramp of the ship lowered, and figures in dark uniforms emerged. Agents of the Galactic Council, no doubt. They were here. "They're already here," Jack said, his voice tense. "How are we going to get out of this?" Celine's eyes glowed with a cold fury. "We fight. We don't run. We face them head-on." Jack wasn't sure what kind of fight they could put up against such an organized force, but looking at Celine, he could see the determination in her eyes. She wasn't just a queen who had lost her throne. She was a force of nature. And now, it seemed, she was ready to reclaim everything she had lost. As the agents moved closer, Jack and Celine prepared themselves. It was clear that the battle for the truth had begun, and neither of them was going to back down. The air was thick with tension. Jack and Celine stood behind the ancient stone columns, hidden from the approaching agents. The sound of heavy boots echoed through the ruins as the soldiers of the Galactic Council fanned out, searching for them. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He could hear his own breath, shallow and quick, as the adrenaline coursed through him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about standing up to the very forces that had tried to bury Celine. "They know we're here," Jack whispered, his eyes scanning the area for any way out. "We can't hide forever." Celine's gaze was fixed on the agents ahead, her eyes glowing with a cold, calculating fury. "We don't need to hide. We face them." Jack looked at her, amazed by her calmness. She was ready for this. The queen of a lost empire, standing firm against those who had betrayed her. It was clear now that there was no turning back. They would fight, no matter what. "On my signal," Celine said softly, her voice steady. "We move." Jack nodded, his hands gripping his weapon tightly. He wasn't a soldier, he was an explorer, But in this moment, he was willing to do whatever it took to help Celine. The agents were getting closer, their footsteps now just a few meters away. Jack could see their dark uniforms and their cold, calculating eyes. These were the people who had erased her from history, who had buried her empire, and now they had come to finish what they started. Celine's body tensed, her form glowing brighter. She was ready. With a sharp nod from her, Jack stepped out from behind the column, his weapon raised. The agents didn't see them coming. Celine was the first to move. With a flick of her wrist, a powerful wave of energy shot out from her hands, knocking two of the agents off their feet. They fell hard to the ground, their weapons skidding out of reach. The other agents hesitated for just a moment, shocked by the sudden attack, but quickly regained their composure. "Stay back," one of them shouted, raising his blaster. "You're surrounded." Jack didn't wait for further orders. He rushed forward, firing his weapon with precision, taking out one of the agents as he sprinted across the open ground. The blast hit its mark, and the agent collapsed, stunned but alive. Celine moved with unmatched grace, her glowing form a blur as she disarmed another soldier with ease, her strength a clear testament to the power that had once made her a queen. "We need to end this quickly," Jack said, his voice tight with urgency. Celine nodded, her expression cold. "They cannot be allowed to report back. We must stop them." The battle intensified. More agents emerged from the shadows, but Celine's power was overwhelming. With every move, she struck with deadly precision, her energy waves knocking them down, incapacitating them without killing. Jack fought alongside her, doing everything he could to keep up, protecting her from the agents who tried to close in. As the last agent fell to the ground, Celine stood tall, her breathing steady but heavy. The fight was over. For now. The remaining agents lay on the ground, unconscious but alive, their weapons scattered around them. Jack's heart slowed, but the adrenaline was still rushing through him. He glanced at Celine, who seemed unfazed by the chaos that had just unfolded. She turned to him, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the horizon. "This isn't over," she said, her voice low and determined. "They will send more, and we will need to be ready." Jack nodded, his eyes meeting hers. There was no going back now. The battle for Celine's empire had only just begun. The ruins of the ancient city lay in silence once the battle ended. Jack wiped the sweat from his forehead, his breath still heavy from the fight. Celine stood a few feet away, her glowing form dimming as the last of her energy settled. The agents of the Galactic Council lay scattered around them, unconscious but alive. Jack couldn't help but feel a strange sense of pride. He had fought beside a queen, and together they had won their first battle. But Jack knew this was just the beginning. They had won a small victory, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Council wouldn't just give up, not after everything they had done to erase Celine's existence. He turned to Celine, who was looking out at the horizon, her eyes sharp and focused. "What now?" Jack asked, his voice quiet but filled with determination. Celine turned to him, her expression as cold as ever. "Now we move. We take the fight to them. We can't hide anymore. They know I'm alive, and they will send more soldiers. But we have the truth now. That's more than they can handle." Jack nodded. He knew she was right. The council had erased her, tried to bury her empire, but they had failed. The truth of her past was out now, and no matter how much they tried to stop her, Celine would fight to reclaim her throne, and Jack would fight alongside her. "We'll need more allies," Jack said, his mind already racing. "The council is powerful. They won't be easy to defeat." Celine's eyes softened just slightly, but her resolve remained firm. "I know, but I've been alone for too long. I won't make the same mistake again. We'll find the allies we need. There are those who still remember me, who still believe in the old empire. I can reach them." Jack felt a surge of hope. They weren't alone anymore. They had the truth, they had each other, and together, they would rebuild. The road ahead would be dangerous. But Jack couldn't help but feel that they had the power to change things, to bring justice to a galaxy that had forgotten her. "We'll find them," Jack said. "We'll rebuild what was lost." Celine gave him a sharp nod. "Yes, and when the time comes, we'll make the council pay for what they've done." As they stood there, surrounded by the wreckage of their enemies, Jack felt a sense of purpose he hadn't known he was capable of. He had never imagined he'd be part of something like this. A struggle for a queen's lost empire, a fight against a powerful council. But now, there was no turning back. He was in this for the long haul. Celine's glowing form seemed to brighten with renewed determination. "It's time to go. We have much to do. The galaxy has forgotten me, but I won't let them forget who I am. The Empire will rise again." Jack followed her as she turned, her presence commanding and unwavering. Together, they walked away from the ruins, leaving behind the agents who had tried to stop them. The fight was far from over, but now, they had a plan. They had the truth on their side, and with that truth, they would tear down the walls the council had built. A new chapter was beginning, and Celine's empire, long buried in the past, was ready to rise once again. The stars stretched endlessly above them, but the cold night did little to dampen the fire inside Jack and Celine. They had walked away from the battle in the ruins, but their journey had only just begun. Celine's past, her empire, her throne, they were no longer things of the past. They were real again, and Jack knew that the galaxy would never be the same. They walked side by side, a queen and her unexpected ally. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they would not stop. Celine's determination was like a burning star, and Jack, though still new to the weight of it all, couldn't help but be drawn into her purpose. He had thought he was just an explorer, but now he was part of something that would change the course of the galaxy. As they made their way to a small settlement on the outskirts of the ruined city, Jack glanced at Celine. She had not said much since the battle. Her face was calm, but there was an intensity in her eyes that spoke volumes. "Do you think they'll come after us again?" Jack asked, his voice cautious but firm. "They will," Celine replied without hesitation. "The council is powerful. They have resources beyond anything we've seen. But now we have something they don't: truth. And when the truth is on your side, it becomes a weapon." Jack nodded. He knew what she meant. The council had erased her existence, but they had underestimated the power of what they had hidden. She was more than just a queen. She was a symbol of something that had been lost, and in a galaxy full of secrets, the truth was the most dangerous weapon of all. As they reached the settlement, Jack noticed a group of figures waiting by a small fire. They were not soldiers, but they were people who had clearly been expecting them. These were the allies Celine had spoken of, those who had not forgotten her, those who still remembered the old empire. Celine's eyes brightened as she stepped forward, her posture regal despite the years of hiding. "You came," she said simply, her voice steady but filled with gratitude. One of the figures, a tall man with a weathered face, stepped forward. "We've always remembered you, Celine. We never gave up hope that you would return." Jack stood back, watching the reunion unfold. It was clear that Celine had people who believed in her, who still stood by the ideals she once represented. This was her first step back into the world she had lost, a world that had forgotten her, but now, slowly, was beginning to remember. Celine turned to Jack, a rare smile softening her features. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We will rebuild. The empire will rise again, not through force, but through unity. We will take back what was stolen." Jack felt a surge of determination well up inside him. The road ahead would be long, and the challenges would be many, but they had the truth now. And with the truth, anything was possible. "We'll stand with you," Jack said, his voice filled with conviction. "We'll make sure the galaxy knows who you are." Celine's gaze met his, and in that moment, Jack understood. This was more than just a fight for a throne. It was a fight for the truth, for the memory of those who had been forgotten. It was a fight for a new beginning, a new dawn. As they stood together, the firelight flickering in front of them, Jack realized that they weren't just rebuilding an empire, they were rebuilding hope. And in a galaxy so vast, hope could be the most powerful force of all.